FFG has given us a planetary bombardment of information this week. Welcome to the podcast where we discuss how to outmaneuver your opponents. I'm Faith and I'm here with Jrod and his Dudeness. Today we discuss Jump to Lightspeed spoilers and upcoming competitive events. But before we get into the fun, we are joined by the best looking content creator in Star Wars Unlimited, Justin from Bucketheads.
I am a part of the Bucketheads. We are a Twin Sun show, plus more. We have a bunch of really cool stuff coming out very soon. So, but yeah, we just predominantly are in Star Wars Unlimited. And I'd like to think that we have the best quality content, but that's also because we spend money.
If someone hasn't seen any of your stuff before, what video of yours would you recommend that they watch to get a taste of the kind of content that you guys provide?
Definitely the most recent episode of Open Fire, our Twin Sun show, where I am completely green, mean, and lean, dressed as the beautiful Harrison Dula. So I think that's if you want a taste test of what exactly the show is like, that's probably the best way to start.
And what can they look forward to from your channel in the future?
So we're branching out a little bit from Star Wars Unlimited, not going anywhere with Star Wars. We still are producing Open Fire at a higher rate and doing a lot of really amazing stuff. We onboarded an editor and a 3D animator and actually a post-production team. Plus, we just built this amazing studio for recording. So that is also super insane. So Open Fire for Star Wars Unlimited. And then if not, we're doing a lot more like tabletop and board game stuff as well. So, and just more podcast based, just a lot of really fun, high quality game show stuff. If you like tabletop, you probably like what we do.
Where are you located, by the way?
Dallas, Texas. Yeehaw.
What decks are you guys planning to bring to the Planetary qualifier tomorrow?
Can't tell that. Secret. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
It's gonna be awesome right there.
I'm playing Quinlan Target Town. I fell in love with the deck like a month and a half ago. I've been grinding it like crazy. And it's just such a fun deck. So I'm playing Quinny TT.
I'm also playing a Tarkin Town deck, but I'll be playing my boy Kylo. Just gotta go fast. Gonna try to swarm my opponent and win by turn 5? ?
Very nice. I'm heading over with my favorite leader in the entire game, Chancellor Palpatine Blue. I'll be playing both sides as they were, hoping to take down all of my opponents. But I haven't played in a couple months, so I'm not expecting a big result from me. So have some fun, maybe play some Twin Suns after I scrub out.
Yeah, he got thrashed in testing tonight.
So as we are recording on Friday, our events are tomorrow. And though I am not in Dallas, unfortunately, I will be heading to my local in Chaska, Minnesota for my PQ. And I plan on playing in Energy Conversion Lab Krennic, my standard staple deck that I've been playing since set 1. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it does in its first major competition in set 3. So before we look at the Jump to Lightspeed spoilers, Justin, since you guys are big into playing Twin Suns, what is your best Twin Sun pairing?
Not to even be funny about it, but Luke and Hera are really good. Also, Hera and Han are pretty nasty. This set, though, has been a little sneaky. I've been running a Maul Ventress blue deck, and it's been schmugging. Every Tuesday, we host Tuesday Night Twin Suns at our local game store, and we have a really good crowd. I would easily say it's probably one of the bigger Twin Suns events in the country. And we have upwards of like, on average, 15 to 25, sometimes at 30 people a week. And so far, undefeated on that bad boy. So
They haven't played me yet, to be fair. I did go once, not while I was here this week, but in the past week. And I was just to say, it was a lot of fun. If you're in the Dallas area, hit up Justin and go see him on Tuesday Night Twin Suns, because you'll have a lot of fun, meet a bunch of cool people. So definitely go check that out.
Twin Suns is so gas.
Final question about Twin Suns. With set 4, we're getting the expansion from 50 to 80 card decks for Twin Suns. What are your preliminary thoughts about that?
Good. I'm excited to not have cheaters. I'm kidding. No, I think it'll be really good. I think a lot of people's complaints with Twin Suns is that there's not enough cards in the game to sustain something that would be, like if you come from EDH and you come from Commander, like there's like deck archetypes that are very literal and very to the point. And although that be it, it's true. Like you can't make a full grit deck or things like that. And even in the expansion for set 4 and the increasement of 80 cards, you're still not going to be able to make a full grit deck. I still extremely suggest that people try it. It's so fun. Even in set 1, when there was just set 1 in the game, Twin Suns was so fun to play. So it's extremely enjoyable. You play with the right crowd. It gets really fun. It gets really rowdy. And I think the increasement of 80 cards and a whole bunch of pilot decks are going to start making some really fun play styles. Because usually like the correct way to play the game is kind of like have a leader that deploys a little bit later in the stages of the game when the end game is starting to trigger. But I think with pilots, it's going to be a little bit different. I think people are going to start being a little bit more upfront and aggressive, which is going to make the game really fun, like really, really fun. So I don't think the 80 cards is going to change too much, but I think the introduction to piloting and a lot more space heavy decks is going to make Twin Suns really crazy.
I feel like when I played Twin Suns, there was never like space was like there, but it didn't really matter. Like everyone was fighting on the ground.
Yep.
Because there just wasn't enough good space units to like fill out your deck with like half space, half ground. There was always like, I'll put in the good ones, and then the rest is gonna be all ground in events.
Well, we did a night. We do like theme nights. Right now we're going through Challenge January. It's kind of like a bounty board, and we do giveaways, like free giveaways every single week, where we give as much product away to the people that are playing as possible. And we decided, in January, instead of doing that, why don't we have people try to earn their share of things that they want to take? One of those being like, how like Star Wars Unlimited FFG gives out these big, massive marketing cards. One of the challenges, you win the Echo card from this set. So we wanted people to try to earn stuff. We also wanted people to branch out and try new things. So on this challenge board, it's actually been so fun, and people have been trying so hard to do it. It's like win with an 100 card deck, play Endless Legion and a Twin Suns, which is very difficult to do. Play like get Grievous out and get 4 lightsabers on him. Like just trying to get people to like build all these different archetypes and decks and achieve these challenges. And people have really explored and Twin Suns, and it's been extremely enjoyable. My point being is one of the archetypes that we did in a night was called Anarchy Night, where we allowed people to do a villainy and a heroism leader natural pairing without doing the Chancellor Palpatine way. And someone made a Palpatine Han Solo deck that was full space. And because you have villainy and heroism, you could make a full space deck in set 2, and he won every game that night. It was crazy. So I think in set 4, shit's about to get wild.
Well, what a great transition into talking about some of these set 4 cards that we're going to get, and some of them feature the keyword pilot that Justin was talking about. So from either Twin Suns, but mostly from a standard competitive or premier competitive format, what do we think about the cards that were spoiled this week? What are some of the ones that stand out to you?
I think, okay, few things here, guys. Let's just be very real. Lando Calrissian is not good. Admiral Piet is very good. Admiral Piet seems very scary. And I think that people need to be kind of afraid. There was someone in a Discord that I saw made a comment about, and it came off the release of Cassian Andor, the new Cassian Andor pilot, that if there was a ability to have an ECL, but with a pilot ability. So being able to attach something to like a pilot onto a ship and then immediately attack. And if that was a thing with Cassian Andor, the new unit, I think that would be absolutely nuts. And then I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but I just have to mention it. I think Little Annie is something I'm looking forward to. Force unit on 2 that's not Grogu.
Oh, I didn't say he was Force.
He's a Force.
Yeah, Force, bro.
Not Grogu, baby.
Going right into his Quinlan deck, I guess.
Brian.
What about you, Dudeness? Anything that stood out to you from this week's spoilers?
Well, today we got another 2-drop space unit for Red Heroism, so that was pretty cool. We got the Red Squadron Y-Wing, who is like a regular Y-Wing, just +1 on attacker, dealing 3 indirect. I think it's pretty solid. It's a rebel. It goes into a Leia deck. I want to bring Leia back in set 4. That's my main goal, is to bring her back and make her relevant. But if we get more cards like this, I could see it happening.
Yeah, I think the best thing about this card for that deck style is that it's not unique. So you can play like a bunch of them, and just having like 2 of those out with like Leia's ability is just like 6 indirect damage and 2 to your base.
Can I interrupt here real quick? How do we feel about indirect damage?
So Dudeness and I played Destiny where we had indirect damage. So everyone who hasn't played Destiny is going to overlook indirect and be like, oh, this is not good because your opponent gets to choose. And you're not wrong if you do indirect like once in a blue moon. But if your deck is built around indirect, it can be very, very strong. Because at some point, your opponent's going to run out of spots to put the HP. Like, you're already doing an extra point of damage. Like, these are all above rate for all the damage they do. Your opponent gets to pick where it goes. And it goes through shields. So, like, if they're at, like, 2 HP and they get a unit with a shield with that's a 2/2, and you do 3 indirect damage, well, they can't put 2 on their base or they're dead. So they have to kill their unit. You know what I mean? Like,
which leads me into the name of this episode, Planetary Bombardment. How crazy is deal 8 indirect damage to a player?
12.
And if you control a capital ship, you deal 12 on 6? Are you joking?
It says hi.
Yeah, quite literally. Holy. I feel like this is a Faith combo. All I've ever heard of Faith's playstyle, I feel like indirect damage might just be that style of juicy jankness that might be really good that Faith would abuse.
Well, real quick for everyone at home who's listening doesn't know what the card does. Justin's a little new to this podcasting thing. So Planetary Bombardment's a 6-cost event. It's an aggression-only tactic. It says deal 8 indirect damage to a player if you control a capital ship. Deal 12 indirect damage instead. And it's a legendary.
It's legendary.
But Faith, you think that card's going to be good?
I think it's definitely have potential. I like it as just a general aggression. Like, it's not tied to villainy. So I actually really want to see some hero decks with it. We don't have as many heroism capital ships, but I still think it's like, there is the one that's the 5-cost, 5/4 red heroism.
The Corvette.
The Corvette, yeah. So I think like that's kind of interesting. I think obviously this is going to naturally fit with villainy, which has more and pretty much better capital ships. But I just like generic, like things that you can play both ways.
But see, okay, so this Corvette we just mentioned cost 5. So the ability to play a capital ship and then follow it up the following turn before they can deal with your capital ship with the thing on curve to bombard and deal 12.
So, Dudeness, hear me out here, right?
Okay.
Right. You're not wrong. I like the thought process you're going to, and it's great. The problem is it's a 5/4, so it dies to like every removal spell.
They do have to discard a card, though.
Sure. But, Dudeness, ready for this one? I think I'm going to get you really excited for this combo here. You're going to play Admiral Piet with a Ruthless Raider. It's going to cost you 5 to play Ruthless Raider, and the next turn you can bombard, and they almost can never kill Ruthless Raider in one turn because the removal spells don't work.
Wait. 12 indirect damage for 6 costs is crazy. Holy moly. I feel like I never really read the card that crazy.
But
wow.
Like, pairing that with Admiral Piet and Ruthless Raider, you're like, I can do the thing, and the next turn I get to play that and do 12.
Holy moly, bro.
You're killing a lot of stuff with 12.
I'll just shoot my shot here with what I was thinking. Maybe another play would be with Piet, playing the Ruthless Raider for 5, and then on 6, deploying with Piet and playing a Devastator, where you get to assign, Devastator is another legendary, 8-cost aggression villainy, 9/6, and it allows you to assign all indirect damage you deal to opponents. It also has a when played to deal 4 direct damage for each opponent. So Piet's our new leader that we have, and just as we're going to describe it, when he's undeployed, he has an action which you can exhaust him to play a capital ship unit from your hand that costs 1 less. That's why you're allowed to play that Ruthless Raider, which is a capital ship, from your hand for 5. However, when he's deployed on 5 resources as a 2/7 unit, he has an effect where each capital ship unit you play costs 2 less. So this Devastator, which would cost 8, now only costs 6. And when Ruthless Raider came in, you dealt 2 damage to their base. The cool thing with Devastator that I think is actually really interesting is because you can assign indirect damage, you could just assign that all to their base, which I think is going to make this card actually really strong because you play it and then you can deal 4 damage to their base, which is a way to end the game. It's also, you can also like do a mini barrage to just clear whatever you want. And then the next turn, follow it up with one of these planetary bombardments. And now you're dealing 12, however you want to assign it.
What was FFG thinking? There's got to be something. There literally has to be an event in this set. There's something that semi counters this to some ability. It has to.
So far, everything, whenever they put out a new like keyword or whatever, there's always something within the set that like directly counters it. Like last set we had all these token generators and we had like 3 different commons and uncommon that did like 2 damage to everything or 1 damage to everything, or -1/-1. Like, so they always usually cover themselves with some kind of like silver bullet for this kind of stuff. And you might get like shield generators that you can put around your base that might block indirect damage or something like that. You might get like, you know what I mean? So that are not shields. They're like, it's a different thing than the shield. I'm just as an example.
You're shooting.
You know what I mean?
And also I can imagine that we're going like aggro in general will push up against that and say, okay, well, you're trying to do all these big plays, but my Sabine still is hitting your face really aggressively, and what are you going to do to stop the onslaught of the aggression?
Yeah, I mean, you can do all those things with Piet that are really cool, but then if your opponent's like if Dudeness is like turn 1, Red Squadron Y-Wing, turn 2, I'm going to put Chewbacca on my Red Squadron Y-Wing, what are you going to do about that? Take 7.
Yep, this is true.
You know what I mean? Like, Dudeness is going to be in heaven over there.
Can I ask this real quick? What do you guys think of the piloting mechanic so far? Like,
Dudeness is going to start with that response.
I like the pilot mechanic. I think it's really cool on cards in your deck. The flexibility to deploy it on the ground versus putting it on a vehicle means it's never a dead card, because upgrades as it stands right now, you draw an upgrade, you have nothing to put it on, it's a dead card, actually.
Yep.
So these pilots can never be a dead card. I like that aspect of it. I don't like it on my leader, because now it requires further setup to deploy my leader, when leaders beforehand were just do the thing and you get to deploy the boy and you get full effect. No hoops required. Now you have to jump through some hoops to make your pilot leader effective. I wish they were just deployed straight onto a vehicle themselves, but I guess that's for a different set.
So my transition from that is, maybe I'm getting too crazy here, but did you guys see Tyler's ruling on Bamboozle for leaders?
No.
So Tyler confirmed on Twitter that Bamboozle works on leaders, and it kills a leader because the leader can't go to hand.
Interesting.
So you can 0 cost kill a leader. As it stands right now, you can 0 cost kill a leader.
Or
a card, so he's all for it, right?
For the cost of 2 cards.
Or you can 1 resource play a confiscate and get rid of any leader pilot that way.
They have to have a balance for this somewhere.
I'm just going to say my Palp 2 blue deck is absolutely going to be running Bamboozles next set. Because I don't care about the extra card. I'm like, kill you, goodbye.
I think the pilot mechanic is cool on cards. Like the new one we got today, Neon Nub, a 1-cost pilot for heroism command here. He's a 1/2, and his ability simply states this unit gets +1 attack for each other friendly pilot, whether that is a unit or an upgrade on the field. So this guy is directly rewarding you for going wide with as many pilots as you can. And you can get it's not unreasonable to think that you can get a +3/+2 buff from this guy. And if you're playing Wedge and Tilly's, that's free. You can tap Wedge and play this guy for free onto one of your vehicles, which is pretty sweet. Wedge is the only pilot I'm excited for because his ability, again, making things cheaper, as we're just talking about, Piet, is good, right? So I'm excited to see if that actually becomes a thing.
I think one of my problems with piloting so far is it doesn't leave a lot of text for anything outside the piloting. So Nub is a great example of this. Like, I think actually him and Chewbacca are the only 2 pilots that I personally really like, because I think they add an interesting, they're not just a stat line when you deploy them onto the ground. Something we also got as previously mentioned, Cassian Andor as a pilot, and his piloting box takes the entire text box. So you can play him into the ground arena, but he's just a generic 3/4. Something like a Chewbacca I think is interesting, because Chewbacca can deploy and has the built-in protection that he provides, and he's a 5/6, so he's like a pretty chunky unit with a protection if you deploy him to the ground, and he still has a great piloting if you do pilot him on a vehicle. So that's my disappointment with piloting so far.
Yeah.
So I'm going to double down on that because everyone who's listens to this knows my hatred for those OP borders. And can't wait to see what they did with the pilots that they did in those OP borders with all those texts. Because there's going to be one, and it's going to look like too much. Like the regular hyperspace cards are probably going to be fine because you're just adding the art, which probably isn't a major deal. But like when you're going to attach that for like one of the OP kits and have those like, I hope they changed those already. But like if they didn't, it's going to be hilarious to see what cards they put in those OP kits.
But as we're speaking about piloting, we did get another card that interacts with piloting, and that's Red Leader, which is a 4-cost command heroism unit, a 3/4 rebel vehicle fighter. It's going to cost you 1 less for each friendly pilot unit and upgrade. And also, when a pilot upgrade attaches to this unit, you can create an X-Wing token. So this is definitely, I think, a card that really wants you to play Wedge as your leader.
Yep.
And I think there is a way to play this kind of I think pretty well. If you play that 1 cost 2/3, and then you use Wedge to put Anakin on that unit, then you've got a pilot out. So then on the next turn, you can play this unit. It's going to cost 1 less because you have a pilot unit of Anakin. Then you attack with that unit to bring Anakin back to your hand. And the next turn with Wedge, you can make it cost 1 less upgrade. And you can put Anakin on top of this Red Leader, creating that X-Wing token. Red Leader can attack. You can bounce Anakin back to your hand. And then you can play Anakin again as a pilot onto Red Leader to create a second X-Wing token. So you'd have 4 space units on turn 3.
That's crazy.
On turn 2, even if you had the new card Neon Nub in your hand, you can play the Red 3 or the Red Leader for 3.
Yeah.
And then play the Neon Nub onto him for free with Wedge's ability and getting the X-Wing token immediately.
Good point. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's crazy. One of the things that I'm hoping that they do with this next set, especially with the introduction of X-Wing and TIE Fighter tokens, is something that I felt like wasn't very well done in set 3 so far. Is if you look at a lot of other TCGs, the usage of tokens have transformed and shaped a meta. And maybe it's the lack of exploration from a lot of the player base to explore heavily into the meta to find a exploit deck or a token-based deck that is really prevalent and good and shaping. But I feel like the introduction of more tokens, I'm really hoping to see a deck that actually abuses that. I feel like every successfully fun and enjoyable and good TCG has that player-based aspect where you can build a token deck and do really stupid token things. And I would really love to see set 4 actually explore that and make them very good. Just because I feel like this set, and again, maybe that's just the lack of exploration from the player base, but I feel like I really haven't seen competitively ever just a deck that abuses tokens to an ability that makes you feel like you feel the wrath of it.
Yeah, I think they were overly conservative with the token creators in the last set. And truth be told, like set 1 cards were just so much more powerful than everything else they printed that first year, that like it just became down to the power level of the cards, and all of the token generators were like just a touch below the power level to actually be like competitively viable. And I think that has more to do with it. Talking to MJ and a couple other developers at PAX, they had said that like set 4 changes everything. So like I do expect if there was going to be one in year 2, and from what I'm seeing right now, that this could be the set that provides tokens an opportunity to shine during this era of Star Wars Unlimited. Because we're still playing right now block constructed.
Oh, for sure.
So like take your little decks with a grain of salt. They're like good bad decks, if that makes sense to people. Like they're not actually good Star Wars Unlimited decks yet because we haven't even seen what those could look like yet.
Yep.
So I'm thinking of like in Magic the Gathering, I have a very bad modern token deck, and I think something that deck that I like about that deck or that helps that deck is when you can, like if you have a wide board, you want to be able to increase its stats, and particularly doubling their stats. Like a 1/1 that gets a +1 buff doubles its attack, so you're going wide and then you're making for a small buff. So I don't know how many cards we're going to get that are going to interact directly with tokens. There is the one card, Nameless Valor, which you can equip to a token to give it +2/+2, and I think Overwhelm. So I guess I'll want to see a card that's like Yeah, give all token units +1. I guess we do have. I guess I'm wrong. We do have 3/4. Give all your token units +1/0.
Yeah, Shakti. Well,
Shakti.
let me argue this, I guess. Do you think the limitations of Star Wars Unlimited's action economy actually prohibits token decks to be that valuable? Because something I was talking to Julian today, who's also in the Bucketheads, we were talking about how action economy in this game has such a higher precedence and priority over some things that would be considered very good. Like the designers on stream the other day said that people were very undervaluing Mace. But the problem is like you can do that in a very limited playtesting sequence where you're not getting a mass amount of people playtesting the game over a year of time, where they're playing decks that have faster and better action economy versus decks that are just taking so many actions to do things. And because this game is action per action back and forth, tokens, I feel are way less more valuable than in Magic the Gathering, where you're doing all your action turns in one turn and it's sequencing based. So it makes me concerned because I guess tokens theoretically can't interact the same way in a lot of games. Like can't interact in the same way in Star Wars Unlimited as a lot of games. So I wonder if they have to be very creative about making certain cards interact with tokens specifically to give them that same type of power buff. Like we're getting 2 attack with an event, you know what I mean? Like, an event, even in this set, we're getting the Tandem Assault, which is a 1-drop green event. It says attack with a space unit. If you do attack with a ground unit, that ground unit gets 2+0 for the attack. And we're getting cards like that. In set 2, we got Outflank. Set 1, we have Rebel Assault. Like, I wonder if we're going to get a token event that allows you to cheat actions. Is the only thing in my mind that I could see it being pretty valuable.
My one thing on that is that as a control player, sometimes you want to waste those actions. You know, like, so having those tokens to lose the action economy is good because you want to be able to stall and wait and be able to counter what they're going to do on the turn. Mm-hmm. So I think it really depends on the deck. And like, I agree that maybe aggro decks might not want tokens unless it's like, here's a 2-cost 3/2 that makes a token as a 2/2, right? Which is really good, way overpowered for what this power level of the game is. But like, if that was a card, that would see plenty of play, right? And then everyone would be having the 3-cost deal 2 damage to all grinding to wipe it out with one.
Bloodsport,
yeah. But like, it's just like that card doesn't exist. So like right now, the tokens are like in my mid-range or control list. How can I use this to be able to make sure I'm outmaneuvering my opponent to really make sure I get the best turn I possibly can? So either play my big card after they've done everything they can do and they've claimed, or be able to respond to whatever big thing they do on that turn.
Yeah.
I think it's more for that than like the aggressive, how am I going to get all these actions in before my opponent does theirs? You know what I mean?
I think we've already hit our cap of like what, I don't know, I'm looking at Magna Guard Wing Leader, which is the 3-cost command villainy 3/4 that has an action, attack with a droid unit, then attack with another droid unit, use this ability only once each round. The fact that it even limits, I guess like that's not limited to tokens. So maybe there is a world where they can have, like, this droid effect is more preventing huge droids from attacking multiple times. But I don't know. Are they going to have one that lets you do more than like attack with 3 token units? I don't know.
That'd be spicy.
I would love to see that. Personally, I feel like that would shake up the metas in crazily, because one card would empower a vast majority of decks that would allow you to, like, it's crazy in this PQ, especially when we're like checking Swoop Competitive Hub and we're looking at all these different top 8s and we're looking at everyone's different placement. And it's like, oh my God, a Mace Blue just won Germany. Holy, like, we get freaky with it. But if you really look at a lot of these decks, they're always the same color pairing. They're always usually doing the exact same thing. It's just like your different flavor and spice of a leader into what you think the meta is prevalent with. But like, if a token deck rocked up that had actual capability to withstand against, you know, mirror aggro decks and things like that, like how most TCGs work. And again, this is such a new game, so it's like super understanding. But like, when you're introducing tokens into the first iteration of the game, I would love to maybe see a little bit more prevalence and how that can actually be usable and viable because they're just not, you know what I mean? And there's cards that like don't even feel good to play at all that are so token based or so like trait based, like Invisible Hand, you know what I mean? Is like Julian and I joked about it the other night. We're like, Invisible Hand is, I don't even play that in my Twin Sons deck. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. I like, it's same with Tranquility, like things like that. Like, it just doesn't feel like a card that I really care about, especially given the fact that we're getting PQ promos for it, which is no hate. Like, I think at the end of the day, Star Wars is Star Wars. I love Star Wars. So I'm happy to see things that I know and understand and I appreciate. I love the Invisible Hand. I love Tranquility, especially love Invisible Hand from the Clone Wars. But it's also like, we're about to get a set that's completely space. So why are we getting cards that are space in a set that's not even space based?
I think one of the problems they have right now with like the reason why we're just seeing like one of the most raw, powerful cards, and that's what we're seeing in the high end competitive, is because they're choosing to not overlap any of the sets. So like bounty, when we had the bounty keyword, right? That was only in one set. We didn't see it like sprinkled in the rest of the set. It was in that one set.
Yeah.
Right. So like bounty cards are only going to be good with those cards in that one set. And can those compete with two other sets of good cards? No, it's going to be the most powerful cards in every set. It's going to be what card is the most raw power in every spot. That's what I'm going to be playing. That's all we have right now because we don't have the synergies yet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that with this next year, we're going to see a lot more synergies working together so that you can have raw powerful decks and you can also have synergy decks and kind of have that balance a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really sick. Dudeness, what do you think?
These are all really good points.
Well, as we talk about OP cards, we also talk about different kinds of frames. And this week, we also got an announcement about another kind of new frame that we'll be getting. We got a update on sector qualifiers and regional qualifiers. So for those that are unaware, there's the two Star Wars Unlimited and FFG it's broken down into two kind of formats, or two kinds of ways of playing the game in a more casual frame. And that's where you're going to get things like your store showdowns. And then they also have a more competitive side. In that competitive side, they mentioned 4 main tournaments. One of them is planetary qualifiers. One of them is regional qualifiers and sector qualifiers. And that all leads towards the Galactic Championship. So before we get into the details about these different kinds of qualifiers, we also got information about what the cards that there'll be prizes for these events. And so we got a Kylo Ren and an Obi-Wan Kenobi as prizes for sector qualifiers, and a regional qualifiers we got we were shown Rey and Emperor Palpatine.
Wait, as a correction, it's actually not prizing; it is participation.
Oh, well, some of them are, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No. So Obi-Wan, I believe you can correct me if it's sector or regional. I believe it's regional. Obi-Wan is participation for day 1. Kylo is participation for day 2. And then the prizing is actually the mat. The top 8 gets a mat. It's a specific event mat for that exclusive. And then they haven't announced actual prizing. And it's the same thing for the opposite end for Kylo, or for the Rey and the Emperor Palpatine. It is participation for day 1, and if you make it to day 2, you get a participation card as well.
Okay, so sector is the Kylo and the Obi-Wan Kenobi. That is, yes, to clarify, as you said, you'll get one of them for making it to day 2, but I don't think anyone can get to day 2 if I remember that correctly. Because you have to, each player who manages to achieve a win-loss record of X2, X wins, 2 losses, or better, in the first day advances to day 2. So you only can get to day 2 if you have enough in day 1.
Yeah, 100%. It's not like a top 8 prizing card, but you do get rewarded for making it to day 2.
Yes, correct. Thank you for clarifying that for us. And then we did also get, as you mentioned, some mats that you'll be getting as well. They mentioned that in this season, they're going to get 4 sector qualifiers that will begin in April. And for this season, we're going to have 2 regional qualifiers that will begin in May. And this will all be before the Galactic Championship, which they announced for July. So that's just some information that we got about the cards themselves. What do we think, since we're only going to get a small amount of these, where do you think these will be located?
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong here. When they first announced PQs that it wasn't European based? They first announced all US based tournaments, and then later announced European based, or was it all announced at the same time?
Well, I will say that there were some in Canada. So it's not just US based. I think it was mostly NA based, but I thought there were, because there was 25 from the first. Yeah, so I think there were some in Europe, but if you are from Europe and you played in one of the Planetary qualifiers for set 2, let us know.
I just wonder, because having 4 worldwide to me is wildly small. Like, to me, I mean, especially if you're in Europe, the travel time is extremely easy, and like travel resources are extremely easy to get to. In the US, I think it's a lot less. And I know it's supposed to be a massive tournament, and they're like in their article talking about like multiple hundreds of people playing at this tournament, which is very cool.
1,000,
yeah. I don't know. Just to me personally, I feel like offering a 4-person event and you're giving 2 to Europe, but let's just say hypothetically 2 to Europe, 2 to United States, within April timeframe to then Worlds. I feel like to me, that's a little crazy. I feel like I would love to have seen 4 in the United States and give 1 in each region. So West Coast, East Coast, North and South. And then do 1 or 2 in Europe and do East and West Europe and things like that. Like, I just feel like that would be so much more doable. A lot of people wouldn't have to travel an insane amount of time. Like, I feel like the game right now is asking, going into this year, a lot of traveling from people. Can you come travel to this event? If you don't have a PQ anywhere near you, come travel to this PQ, come travel to this regional, then come travel to Worlds. And I don't know. It's just, to me personally, I don't come from an extreme TCG background, but I feel like it's just a lot of traveling, and I would love to have seen a little bit more accessibility from it. But that's just me, maybe.
Well, I believe this is season 0 for that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like,
it's still season 0.
So like, we got to understand, like, I didn't get a PQ in the entire New England region for set 1. And I mean, like, this will be my first PQ I'm playing in for the game tomorrow. So like, I think we got to be understanding that this is just kind of like trial runs of things, and that not everyone's going to get an easy opportunity to go play on one of these. And there's going to be more in the future. And they went from like, was it like 20 in the United States? I
think there was 25 in the US or total.
Up to like 100 and something or whatever, like crazy number they went to now. So like, and like you can go to anyone you want, and there's a bunch. So it's like, I think as they move forward, obviously it'll be better. And they have done a good job of like expanding it as they've seen popularity. Because also don't forget, like, this game has blown up more than they've expected to.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like, in case people didn't know, in Q4, Star Wars Unlimited was the second most sold for sealed product on TCG Player, I believe was the stat. Only losing out to One Piece. And to be fair, Magic, if combining all of their products in one, probably would have eked us out, but it still would have been close. So
they were third behind Pokemon as well.
Oh, Pokemon. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry, third. You're right. So, but still, fine. If we lose to Pokemon, that's the game that's been around for years, and it's going to be a tough one to beat because the little kids and all that kind of good stuff. So, I mean, if we're already third, like, we're crushing Lorcana, like, all those things, like, the game's in a great spot. The game is very healthy. So roll with it. Understand that you might not get to this one, but you can go to ones in the future, and I wouldn't be too upset about missing this one if you have to.
I'm just complaining because I just really want the Obi-Wan card.
So that's a good point though, to remember that these first ones are going to be actually quite limited. Now, there are more of these than were given out for the Planetary qualifiers, but we remembered that, like, the champion card, there's only going to be 4 champion of the like champion versions of these cards, and then 2 for the sector one. So you can imagine, like, a one of 2 copies of is it the Emperor Palpatine? That's for that one. Is the Rey.
Wait, did they announce that those were also going to be champion cards as well?
They had it on on the screens. It had.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So listen, I'm talking to all my whale friends out there right now, and if you don't know what a whale is, it means you're not one. So all my whale friends, I'm putting out a challenge to someone to acquire a playset of the championship cards.
Oh yeah, especially the one that has only 2 tournaments. Try that one.
You're true.
Oh yeah, even the top 8 versions, to be honest, like any placement card in that, because it looks like there's going to be top 8, top 4. Each of those will actually be quite unique in their own style. So that can actually add a spicy difference. I do wonder, as Justin's saying, the regional differences. Maybe they'll have 1 in Europe and 3 in NA, and just tell everyone that they have to do like a central region. east and west and kind of divide it that way. We'll have to wait and see what they're going to decide to do.
Dudeness, what do you think about these new cards?
I think they're fine.
Okay.
They personally they didn't spark much joy when I first saw them.
I mean, I think the art's pretty good, no?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll say, as the border hater, the resident border hater, these borders are actually pretty good. I'm a fan of these borders. I think I still would prefer the hyperspace ones a little bit more, but these are definitely a mighty step up from what we see in the OP packs.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
You do actually get in the just one more thing with the regional qualifiers. You do also, it looks like, get an exclusive deck box with of the Admiral Piet, and so that's also just another interesting swag thing you can get at these, making them you want to go to them. In fact, there's 2 of them that might leave EU out. We'll have to see. For those that will be going to the Galactic Championship, they did mention that I think simply by getting to day 2 in the regional qualifier, you will get a bye in the Galactic Championship.
Can I ask one last question for this? Dudeness, how are you bringing Leia back? And how are we making Leia great again?
More space units.
I think we can do that.
More space units and cheaper space units.
What's the dream list here? What do you need to see set forward to make Leia good?
A good 1-drop. A good 1-drop in space would go a long way.
Okay, but like, what's the stat line here? What are we looking at here?
That's a good ass question. I'll take a 2/2 for 1.
So
he really wants a 3/1. He wants a 3/1 in space for 1. That's what he really wants.
I don't know if I'm gonna get it though.
Look, I'll talk to the higher ups.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if Dudeness can get his dream of a 3/1 ship for 1 cost. But we want to thank everyone for joining us today. We want to really thank you, Justin, for joining us. And is there any parting words that you have for us at Outmaneuver or for any of our listeners?
I love Outmaneuver, and so do you.
You heard it here first.
No, I love the community. I love Star Wars Unlimited. I love you guys. I love Jeff so much for being able to come on so many occasions, and you guys are definitely the best. I love my signed Outmaneuver card that does not have Faith on it. Made that one. But yeah, I just really appreciate you guys as people, as content creators, as friends, as fellow competitors. Can't wait to get duded on tomorrow by Dudeness. And you know, as I always say, and everyone who knows me knows this, don't forget to pay for your Falcon.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing how all 3 of you guys do in your event tomorrow. And may the Force be with you guys. So we'll see everyone next time on Outmaneuver.
Cheers, man.
Bye.